We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings, secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.
All right. Welcome to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. This is Abe, your host. Third time is the charm, I should hope. I've messed this podcast up about 3 different times, just with my schedule being busy, plans failing. Like today I was supposed to film the Kentucky River, which I'm not complaining because it was flooded and literally flooding like the first story of 2-story houses and stuff around there. The water actually did leave, so I didn't end up filming over there, but I did want to, I don't know, when I see crazy stuff like that, it makes me want to make a video about it and show you guys what's going on. But that didn't work out, which is fine. Yeah, I just got off work. It's 8:40 a.m. Had to leave a little bit late because just honestly, man, we just been busy, been slammed. But yeah, that's about it. Today's episode, we are covering actually an article in my local paper, an article on the paranormal. I made a video years ago when me and Sammy first got into ghost hunting and we first formed Team Spectre. There's a grave here in town, and there's a whole backstory to it. I'm not going to retell it. You can check out that video, and I will leave a little suggestion click during the credits if you want to click on it and check it out to kind of get the whole storyline of the ghost and the unknown grave that's here in town, and the backstory and a conspiracy theory as to who this person actually is. But I found an article. They're wanting to excavate the grave and find out through DNA testing who it is. There is a theory as to who it is, which is what the video I made years ago is about. But it found itself back into the news, apparently piqued some archaeologist, attention. And, yeah, so I'll share that article with you. And I also have planned, we're going to get into Ed and Lorraine Warren. I found an interview. Most of my podcasts are based off of, I have a library upstairs and it's pretty dope. So I'll find little stuff here and there from books that I like or different stuff like that. Found an interview from Ed and Lorraine Warren, which I want to share with you all. So I figured we haven't done a ghost episode for a little bit, and we're due for one. So I figured that's what we'd do. I'll share this article of the local breaking news here in town, and then share the Ed and Lorraine Warren interview with you all. Alright, so this is our local paper here in Harrodsburg, the Harrodsburg Herald. The article name is Researchers Hope for Permission to Exhume Harrodsburg's Dancing Lady, written by Jennifer Marsh of the Herald staff, which ironically enough I almost got hired on there because I've done journalism in the past. Uh, used to write for a paper called Gecko, which was also produced with the Garrett County newspaper. And then I did a little bit of writing for the Garrett County newspaper, so I'm in their archives somewhere. Alright, so historic events is a central part of Harrodsburg's identity, and according to Anna Armstrong, the story of the Dancing Lady of Graham Springs is part of that identity. New developments in the legend of the lady who danced herself to death at Graham Springs Mineral Water Resort in the 1840s have prompted two researchers to seek permission to exhume the remains. Todd Matthews and Lynn Smelser, along with Armstrong, hope to establish enough interest, historical reference, and funds to exhume the Dancing Lady and run her DNA through the ancestry databases. Concern over whether or not an actual body resides in the grave has been voiced by Mayor Art Freeman, which I know Art Freeman. I'd say he's a friend. We disagree a whole lot, but I bartended for him for years over at Beaumont Inn. Let's see. Art Freeman. During last week's city commissioners meeting, along with hesitation over the research team disturbing the park and concerns with sensationalism, Armstrong said she thinks the project is needed to find the truth from a historical perspective. This legend is something I grew up with, said Armstrong. I see these new developments as an opportunity to enhance the ending. Whether there is something inside the coffin, it will only make the legend more interesting. Armstrong said she was curious not just as an archivist and historian, but also as a citizen of Harrodsburg. In Armstrong's opinion, the project is a necessary next step in research. We will never really know exactly what happened, but with new technology, we can maybe positively identify her, and that will lead us to new research, said Armstrong. I see this project as more of an archaeological dig than a regular exhumation. No big machinery or destruction should be required. Armstrong said, Dr. Graham, owner of the resort, was known as a great showman and marketer. If we opened the coffin and found nothing there, it would speak to Dr. Graham's ability as a showman, said Armstrong. It would only be a dark spot on Harrodsburg if we didn't allow the project, which I agree. I think it would be cool. I would love to be there when they do it. Just because I've kept up with this case, because it's an actual paranormal case. Check out the video I put out. I will leave a link at the end, or not a link, but a suggested. You just got to click on it during the credits, and you'll see. Let's see. Matthews, who has been working cold cases in Kentucky since 1998, when he helped solve a 30-year-old mystery around a Jane Doe in Scott County, said the cost of the exhuming would be very low. I'd suggest this would be a gentle dig. With the coroner's nod, the remains could be held in a small container at the local funeral home, said Matthews. The cost of this can be very low. The grave can be opened as easily as the Scott County case in 1998. The most recent fence and marker would be carefully held aside to preserve it as the stone is lifted away, which I show a photo of the actual grave in said previous video. Matthews said the Dancing Lady's coffin is akin to a time capsule, which is yet to be discovered. Matthews' partner, Smelser, is making a documentary about the Dancing Lady's legend. Oh, that's cool. I'd like to see that. When we would like the city's cooperation and support, being involved in the process allows the city to help control the narrative, said Smelser. Harrodsburg's lady who danced herself to death is by far the oldest Jane Doe case on the Doe Network. The story is set in historical Graham Springs, located in the heart of Mercer County. The Mineral Springs Resort was called the Mecca of Southern Society by Sally E. Marshall Hardy as part of the American Historical Register, published in 1895. The springs, known for their healing properties, were owned by Dr. Christopher Columbus Graham, who established the resort in 1819, and it flourished until 1853. There are many articles describing the lavish parties within the springs. It was at one of these parties that the dancing lady met her fate. The legend goes, beautiful young woman in her early 20s checked into the Graham Springs Hotel in the 1840s. She stated her name was Virginia Stafford, daughter of a prominent judge in Louisville. That night, as music played in the ballroom, she came downstairs and began dancing with various partners. She danced passionately, and at the end of the evening, her final partner realized that, to his horror, she had literally died in his arms. It had been said that Judge Stafford did exist, but he did not have a daughter named Virginia. The shocked staff and guests held a funeral for the young woman, and she was buried on the hotel's property, which later burned and is now Young's Community Park. According to Smelser's research, this story was first told by Dr. Graham in an interview in the 1850s. The dancing lady's most accepted identity was that of Molly Black Sewell, which I'd get into that whole conspiracy in said video in the credits you can click on. Sorry to be a broken record, but in June of 1938, the Lexington Leader published an article claiming the mystery of the dancing lady had been solved and the identity of the unknown was in fact Molly Black Sewell. Sewell was said to have fled her floundering husband in Tennessee. Smelser and her research found this widely accepted version of events to be untrue. Dun dun dun! A twist! It might not have been solved. By finding letters with Confederate stamps dating to the mid-1860s to and from Molly Sewell. Ooh, the plot thickens. Sorry, I've been following this case for like years now, and I don't know. To me, it's exciting. You guys are probably like, I don't get it, the ones who haven't kept up with me. Todd Matthews, former director of case management for NAM-US and current program director for the Doe Network, has remained vigilant in his search for the identity of the Dancing Lady of Harrodsburg. Matthews has recently been joined by Lynn Smelser, Ph.D., a researcher, writer, and scholar with a doctorate from Michigan State University, who has dedicated herself to researching the incidents surrounding the death. Matthews and Smelser will attend the next city meeting to plead their case. The meeting is scheduled for Monday, March 8th via Zoom at 6:30 p.m. So I don't know, yeah, check out the video I put out to kind of get into the whole, it'll take you further down the rabbit hole. But it gets into the ghost story too, because this is a haunted grave. And that video that I put out actually tells the ghost story. So if you're into the ghost story stuff, you gotta watch part 1 to understand part 2. You see what I'm saying? But yeah, awesome shit. I would actually like to be there for the exhuming of the body if I can. If they schedule a date and I can find out that date, I would love to be there and record it and put it out on the YouTube channel. If you're listening audio form only, the YouTube channel is Abe Williams. It's a sideways dream catcher as the profile picture. Because if you're listening audio only, you are missing a lot of stuff, because I actually do multiple videos I started, before I even started the podcast, I've been on YouTube for 4 years. I've been doing ghost hunting videos, just conspiracy theory videos. Also, it's a ton. If you just click on the profile, there's a ton of stuff that I've been doing for years. Cryptozoology, looking for cryptids, crazy stuff like that. And if you are on YouTube, you can check us out. If you're just into just only the podcast, you can check us out on Google Podcasts, Spotify, Radio Public, Anchor, Breaker. Yeah, and check us out on BitChute. We're on BitChute too, so anything that gets banned on YouTube, we're pretty black-pilled on BitChute, so. But yeah, we'll get into Ed and Lorraine Warren. Alright, so now we get into the main dish of this podcast, which is Ed and Lorraine Warren. I first came across them years ago with, honestly, I didn't know it at the time, but it was Haunting in Connecticut, which a lot of people who are big fans of The Conjuring call that the actual first Conjuring 1. And in Conjuring 2 would be The Conjuring, and in Conjuring 3 would be The Conjuring 2. But I mean, if you really want to take that mindset, Amityville Horror, if it actually included the Warrens, would actually be Conjuring 1, but they did take part in the whole Amityville Horror investigation. I ain't gonna lie, I'm kind of 50-50 on that. Honestly, I hear a lot of good evidence on both sides, but I don't know, I can't even say 50-50. I would say I am probably like 80%. Yeah, I'll go with 80. No, I'll be nice. 75%. I'm 75% sure from what I've seen with the evidence that Amityville Horror is not the actual murders, but the haunting is 75%, I would say, a hoax. And I'm not gonna lie, with Ed and Lorraine Warren, sadly, like over the years, studying them and being a big fan myself with The Conjuring and stuff, I don't know, like studying them, I'm probably about 50-50 on them too, and I know I'll get people that hit me up and hate me for it, but I don't know. It's just when you start digging, it gets a little sketchy. As far as the actual movies, though, it's probably my favorite horror films. And I always like, anytime a movie comes out and it says based off a true story, obviously I already know I'm not a sheep. You're listening to Conspiracy Corner Podcast. I know that Hollywood likes to take these movies and stuff like that and change them, which I don't understand why they do that, because sometimes, like with if you take example like Mothman Prophecies, the actual book and the actual true story was 10 times crazier than the movie. So like, you would have thought, I don't know. With the Conjuring series, I liked Conjuring 1, and I liked Conjuring 2, and I liked Haunting in Connecticut, which was all the same director, but the director, he took like actual true stories, and then he made what, quote unquote, he called it the Conjuring universe. So then he started taking like true little bits and pieces of the actual stories and then making whole movies that were completely and utter fiction. Thankfully, they're making a Conjuring 3, and he is no longer the director because he went crazy. He made like a whole side series of the Annabelles, which are all BS. He made a fake movie called La Llorona, which tied into the Conjuring series, which was all fake and BS. Conjuring 1 and 2 and Haunting in Connecticut are awesome. As far as any other movie in the Conjuring universe, in my opinion, don't even waste your time with it, man. Don't even waste your time with it. But yeah, as far as like who Ed and Lorraine Warren are, they're pretty much like the most famous paranormal investigators. They were the ones who got the infamous photo of the little boy in Amityville Horror. They investigated Amityville Horror. They have a haunted museum which has Annabelle, which is like one of the most haunted dolls. There is another haunted doll who is super haunted called Robert the Doll, which is what the series Chucky is based off of. Once again, Hollywood takes something real and makes it super far-fetched and entertaining and says, yeah, this is based off a true story. They do that with everything. Look at the movie Psycho or Texas Chainsaw Massacre. It's all based off Ed Gein, stuff like that. Sadly, Hollywood ruins true stories. I don't know, maybe that's some sort of Illuminati thing that they have to lie to you and destroy actual facts. I could see that being some weird Illuminati, form of cuckoldry, I guess, perhaps, maybe. But I have this interview that I want to share with you that I got of theirs. It's taken from Encyclopedia of Haunted Places, and it's compiled and edited by Jeff Ballinger. And it's a lot of these accounts and stuff it's a collection of accounts by basically famous paranormal investigators. So, for more than 50 years, Ed and Lorraine Warren have been investigating the paranormal. In 1952, they founded the New England Society for Psychic Research, and they have investigated more than 4,000 hauntings around the world. They're the authors of 9 books, including The Haunted, St. Martin's Press, 1989, The Ghost Hunters, and The Graveyard. The following interview was conducted with Lorraine Warren. How can people know if their homes are haunted? They should look for any type of abnormal infestation, which can include scratching sounds. It could be movement of objects or things dematerializing and reappearing, making you think you've really lost it. It can also include seeing ghostly forms, cabinet doors or other doors within the home, maybe opening and closing on their own. People might notice changes in temperatures. Change in temperature is something that can happen quite readily in these homes. In certain areas, they describe it as quote-unquote cold spots. It's not that they are really cold spots. What's happening is the energy is being drawn from you or from the heat in that room in order to allow something to manifest because it needs energy. It doesn't have energy. It can't do anything. These types of things can especially happen during the psychic hours of the night, which are from 9 p.m. to 6 a.m. See, I knew about the devil's hour and like 3 a.m., but that and midnight being like a witching hour, But I didn't know from 9 to 6. I mean, I guess that would make sense, though. That kind of, honestly, that would just, the psychic hours of the night, that's literally all night, 9 to 6. Sorry. Question. What should people experiencing a haunting look for in investigators? They should look for the credibility of the investigators. We are listed in the governor's library in Connecticut. I don't know how many paranormal investigators are listed in the governor's library. We are listed based on our credibility. There are people now referring to themselves as demonologists. They're not demonologists. By the way, fun fact, Ed Warren was the only non-Catholic demonologist to be credited and accepted by the Vatican. So, I don't know. He's doing something right, you know. Like I said, I'm 50-50 with the Warrens. My God, do you know the amount of knowledge you have to have in the area of religious demonology? They just like the idea of calling themselves that. You can also call the universities in your area. That is usually a good place to start. And then there is the clergy. Clergy are very important because they are the ones who can help clean the house of what is going on. Be they Catholics, be they Christians, Jewish faith, or whatever, it is so important to reach out to the right people when trying to find your help. Question: what was your most compelling case? There have been so many cases, but Amityville is a case that affected our personal lives more than any case we've ever worked on, because it followed us. It followed us right here to our home. It followed us on the road. We had very dangerous things happening to us as a result of the Amityville case. That was a very outstanding case. It's probably the most haunted house in the world. It got the most publicity, and there's not one part of the world where Ed and I have ever traveled, no matter what their language, that they don't know about Amityville, the infamous Amityville horror. Why should that home have been any different than any other home we've ever investigated? It shouldn't have. It was just another case. But when that call came in, there was a very threatening, ominous feeling that came over me. I didn't know what it meant. When Ronald DeFeo on November 13th, 1974, murdered every member of his family in that home, we were lecturing at a school in West Virginia. When we got there, the dean of students came to our hotel room and told us that Ed's mother had passed away. It was at that exact time that Ronald DeFeo had murdered every member of his family. Don't ask the meaning of it, because we don't know the meaning of it. Before we left the house, I had called some clergymen and asked them if they would go into that home with us in spirit. Why did I do it? I don't have the answer myself. We went into Amityville home and spent a couple of days there. We were trying to figure out why a family was murdered there 13 months before, and then another family moved in and fled after 28 days. 28 days later. Sorry. On the way home, Ed hardly talked to me, which is unlike Ed. He didn't stop for coffee, which is unlike Ed. He was out of character where I was concerned. When we got back, he went down to his office off our museum, which is where that museum's still there today. You can go to it and visit it and actually go and see Annabelle. Me and Sammy, man, that's something we want to do so bad. I wish we had the money to actually go and see it. Heck, we would take a plane, but apparently you need to get lethal injection just to get on a plane these days. So yeah, I don't know. Let's see. When we got back, he went down to his office off of our museum, and I got in bed, and I had both my dogs with me. I start reading, but I couldn't concentrate on the first paragraph, and I knew that was bad. I knew that was a sign that there was a real problem, that something was reaching me, affecting me. So all of a sudden there was this incredibly loud noise. sounded like someone shaking sheet metal. It was a deafening sound throughout the house. And out of the corner of my eye, I could see the two dogs, and they were acting like they were drugged. Just like two statues. They weren't moving. All of a sudden, there was a cyclone of wind or energy, and it seemed to come from the lowest level of the house and come up into every bedroom area. I looked in the doorway. There was this huge black mass. I made a big sign of the cross in the air, and I said, "In the name of Jesus Christ, I command you to leave and go back to where you come from." And it recoiled like a snake. It went up right through the wall and out the top of the house. Within seconds, Ed came in and said it sounded like wild animals fighting, big animals, but there was nothing there. He walked into the bedroom, laid down on top of the blanket next to me, and put his hand on my hand and said, "You have no idea what just happened to me." I said, "You have no idea what just happened to me." What happened to me in that room was the same thing that happened to him. That huge black thing also appeared to him. Both of us came under attack in our home that night. We got to the point where we realized that it plagued us. It would take away our peace. Question: what have you seen change in this field? The public is far more aware than we were 35 years ago. People were very closed-minded then. There's more information out there. People are reading more, becoming more aware. But then you worry, too, about the foolishness that's being done by people who are going into these houses. They are calling themselves quote-unquote ghost hunters. They're going in for the thrill. They can't document a case that they can't bring closure to a case. They don't know what they're doing, and that's the sad thing. Question: what role does your faith play in your investigations? Our faith is our guidance and protection in our work, but every family whose home we enter is not necessarily a Catholic or even a Christian family. So we became very ecumenical where our work is concerned, but we remain steadfast to our Catholic faith. Our faith plays a very big role. But there you have it, guys. I hope you all have a good day. I hope this was a good episode for you all, and I'll catch you all later.
We are, as a people, inherently and historically opposed to secret society, opposed to secret oaths, opposed to secret proceedings. No official of my administration, whether his rank is high or low, should interpret my words here tonight as an excuse to censor the news, to stifle dissent, to cover up our mistakes, or to withhold from the press and the public the facts they deserve to know.